In this video, we're going to look at solving inequalities with negative coefficients, and we're going to be focusing on when we need to flip the inequality sign and why we need to do it. So our key objectives are to focus on the laws of opposites and just understand that the opposite of a positive 7 is going to be a negative 7 and vice versa, and also that the opposite of a less than sign is going to be a greater than sign. So we're going to take those properties and we're going to look at our inequality here of negative 3x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 34. So the first thing we need to do to balance this inequality is subtract 7 from both sides. That's going to leave us with negative 3x on the left-hand side is greater than or equal to positive 27. So the next step that we can use with a shortcut that we can just memorize is to divide both remaining terms by the leading coefficient of negative 3. We're going to be left over with x on one side. We're going to have to remember to flip that inequality, and negative 27 divided by negative 3 is going to result in negative 9. Now, this is a true statement. And the key thing is we would need to just remember to flip that inequality whenever we divide by a negative number. We're going to go back here and we're going to talk about why we need to flip that inequality sign. And so what we're going to do is create a new inequality and talk about why we need to flip that inequality sign. So we have a leading coefficient of negative 3x. The opposite of a negative 3x is going to be a positive 3x. And what we're going to do is we're going to take every single term and find its opposite. The opposite of a positive 27 is going to be a negative 27. Now, the opposite of a greater than or equal sign will be a less than or equal sign. So we're taking every single term, every single symbol, finding its opposite to create an equivalent inequality with a positive coefficient. Now, once we get to this step, we've got a positive 3x is less than or equal to a negative 27. What we can simply do is divide both sides by that leading coefficient of 3. And that's going to leave us with, once again, x is less than or equal to negative 9. This is a true statement. But we're going to go ahead and test that inequality to ensure that we're correct. So taking our original inequality of negative 3x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 34. And our solution of that x must be less than or equal to negative 9. We're going to test it with two different values. Now we know that x must be equal to negative 9, so that's going to be one solution that we test. We also know that x is going to be less than negative 9, so we're going to go one integer down from negative 9, so we're also going to test negative 10. Now, looking at the left-hand side in blue first, we are going to substitute x with negative 9 in that inequality, except we're going to replace that inequality sign with an equal sign because we're ensuring that x must be equal to negative 9. So a negative 3 times a negative 9 will give us a positive 27. Add 7 to that. We get 34 is equal to 34, and we know that's a true statement. So x does equal 9. Now we're going to make sure that x is going to equal the values that are less than negative 9. So setting x, or substituting x with negative 10, negative 3 times negative 10 will give us a positive 30. 30 plus 7 gives us 37, and that is greater than 34. We know that side of the inequality holds true as well. So the key points of this video were to break up the problem-solving step of dividing the coefficient by, or dividing the equation by the negative coefficient and flipping that inequality sign. What I want you to understand is that when we divide or multiply all the terms by a negative number, we are in fact finding the opposite values of that equation or inequality. And when we do so, the opposite of a greater than sign is going to be a less than sign. And the opposite of a less than sign will be a greater than sign. And once we create that equivalent inequality, Then we can just divide by the positive value of that coefficient and work through our steps just like we were solving any other equation.